Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of Time for Wastewater. Hi, Björn. How are you?
Hi Antoine, how are you, my friend? Sun is
Well,
shining in France. Well, weather is really shitty here in Germany at the moment.
it wasn't that bad, I have to say. A bit cold. We have made some fire for the first time this year, so it's the end of the summer, I think, officially.
So that
As
means
soon,
you are taking so you are responsible for the climate change with your coal and your firing with your house and something like this.
no, I'm using renewable wood, so
Do
I'm
you?
pretty fine with that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not
I'll
sure
tell you
about
one
that.
day, but I have my own forest or a piece of my forest because no, it's not a joke actually. My grandparents used to be farmers, so that's everything
Okay,
left.
okay,
I'm a
okay.
shame in the family because I'm working with water and not a farmer. But I think farming is going to be one of those topics we'll have on the plate today for this fascinating discussion we'll have on gambling on the water, water tariffs, water price, water trading. That's
The
quite a lot on the
human rights. You
plate.
forgot the human rights, right?
Yeah,
Everybody
I'm
was
gonna
always
forget that.
saying about trading. Typical.
The carbonator. Come on, I'm not the carbonator. Uh,
All right,
but I
all right.
see everybody's already in a good mood. So I think
Yeah.
hi from wherever you are in the world. Good morning if you're in the US. Good afternoon if you're in Europe. Good evening if you're in Asia. I think we are ready for a hot start. Shall we push the button, Björn? Are you ready?
I am absolutely ready, my friend. Will be a
So
hot show, especially for your seat.
let's go. Let's see you
Let's
on the other
get
side. Are you tired of biased presentations that show you only one side of a story? Do you want to go to the bottom of all the hot water and wastewater challenges? Every month, Björn and Antoine take sides and fight over a topic. They might be over the top, you may even disagree with one or both of them, but you'll always have a chance to be vocal about it. In the end, one thing is certain: they will light a topic from every angle to make sure it is in plain sight for everyone. Are you ready to rumble? It's time for wastewater!
Are you ready for Rumble?
I'm ready
You
to
are.
rumble. I was just about to say that today the introduction is with you, so I'll leave you the
Yeah.
floor.
Thanks a lot, Antoine. Yeah, the topic today, and we marked this already, is market is gambling on water, and is water still a human right? And this is what we want to discuss today, and we want to have it from different angles. I mean, we are most people who are on the show, and especially Antoine and myself, we are coming from rich countries, right? We don't care about water. We have already water. My son is already bathing right now in the bath and is using water. We have all the water here, but still the question is it a human right or not? And we will, as I said, we will discuss this. And one thing we would like to jump in directly as a beginning is, should we gambling with water? And this is more or less something new which came up last year, especially in the US. We all know that California has a huge issue with water scarcity, but meanwhile, something happened really dramatically we should highlight here. The point is, we all know that there's a stock market, and we all know companies, especially in our industry, who are listed at the stock market. I mean, name Salem, Nalco, Veolia, name some others, right? But meanwhile, there's also a future you can trade with, which is the Nasdaq Wheelers California Water. And this is something which is the water right you can trade on the NASDAQ, on the Wall Street in New York. So the executive vice president of NASDAQ, Lauren Dillard, said the water index helped drive become better outcome for water market participants through very favorable price discovery. This is what he said, but I'm not sure that this is 100% right. The important thing is that we really understand this. It's a future. It's not the water itself what you can trade with. It is it's an index measured the price of the five largest and most sold areas in California, where they have huge groundwater. And the point is, on these land there are farms, and these farms are producing something. Mostly peaches, oranges, and so on. And what happened right now, and this is a dramatic change, investors are going there and going to the farmers and want to get the land due to the fact that they want to have the land because they know exactly in the future the land will be more expensive and they can sell it for a different price. This is what they do. They don't care about the fruits who are growing there. They just want to have the land due to the fact that it became tradable on stock market. And the question here is really, is that the right thing what happened right now? Should we trade water, or in this case water right, at the stock market? I mean, think about that. Since the beginning, the price for this future is 400% higher than in the beginning. Dramatically changed. I mean, who's the winner of that? Are the farmer the winner? Are someone here like me who is in the water industry? I am the winner, or someone in Africa who does not have any water at all? Is this person the winner? Who is the winner? And I guess what? The investor is the only winner, not no one else so far. So I will
I disagree.
close the introduction. It's my introduction, Antoine, with Eva Morales, who was the former president of Bolivia, who said, "Putting a price on water on Wall Street is like putting a price on life." This is the introduction.
Great, great, great. So I have a lot to debate in what you just said. So you don't have an insurance on your house, Björn, right? Or you don't have an
No,
insurance on your car or anything like that. Because
I don't.
basically, what you're discussing is how farmers are taking an insurance on their price, which is what a futures is. It's like you're not trading anything at the end of the day. You're just securing the price you're going to buy your water in some years. And if you believe that water will go down, well, you sell. And if you believe that water will go up, you buy. So
In principle, I would say you are right, but the reality is that investors going there and want to purchase just the land from the farmers. It is not that the farmer really participate from the future. You can trade on the Wall Street. It is more that the investors going there to invest into the land to sell it and later due to the fact that they see, hey, 400% increase. 400%. I mean, I have some shares in some other, industries, but 400% I have never reached.
yeah, but 400% doesn't mean much. I mean, if you're starting from a price which is stupidly low, 400% of stupidly low might still be pretty low. So you're looking at return on investment. I mean, it's always like that in a market. You have some time until the market balances out and gets its equilibrium. If you take Netscape two decades ago when they went on the New York Stock Exchange. They just doubled or tripled their value the first day that they were traded, and still that company is bankrupt for now. So you're just, I mean, 400% doesn't speak much. I'm standing my point. If you have an insurance on your house, you shall know that water futures is really about that. So I don't think what's wrong. Tell me what's wrong.
I mean, I just take the comment from Julie. He's saying I'm betting the winner will be the speculators. They will be the winners. So what we do is we are gambling with water. This is exactly what they do. Most of the farmers, or a lot of farmers, sold the land due to the fact that they said, okay, I can get a lot of money from my farms. They want to have it, and they totally get everything off of what is on the farm, and they just care about the water to have a better price in the end. So we are just trading water, even if it is a future, even if it is a water right. I mean, this is what the reality is.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why you're really scared about something which is not that scary. I'll give you a scary example. I'll give you a reality which is much worse than what you're telling here. Because actually, there was 15 years ago a delegation from Australia that went to California and had a look at how they were preparing to trade water as a community, as a commodity. So really those physical markets, but also those water futures. And they looked at it and they said, hey, that sounds like the thing to do. So they introduced water trading in Australia. If you've ever been to Australia, in Australia there's only one river. I mean, all the other one rivers are not going up to the sea. They dry out before reaching the sea. So that one river is the only real catchment they have, and that's the Murray River. And around that Murray River, they decided to go for a water market. But they did something very different from what you're here saying is the worst thing ever, is that they decorrelated the water from the land, which means on the Australian market, you can go in and buy only water and not have any land. So then it's really open to speculators, meaning that you can say that you buy water, permanent rights, temporary rights, or allocations, and different types of things. There's not even one market, there are three markets. And you can also do those transactions off market, which means there it's really the far west. And when you create that far west, then I fully agree with you. Then you're in a situation which is terrible. The result in Australia is that they have created mega farms of almonds and olive, so which were
Olive.
not
Yeah.
originally uh, crops that you would grow in
Mm.
Australia, but it made sense with the water trading to build those, and big farms which were irrigated for centuries simply went bankrupt and had to close down. So the most fertile soil don't have any water anymore, and some other kind of crops are grown even if they don't make local sense, and that is all because of the water trading. So you're right, if you go to that extreme, then water trading is wrong.
Yeah.
But what you were discussing here with the case of the American market sounds to me like something which is well protected. I mean, it's traded on the NASDAQ, not in the middle of the desert. You cannot go off market and start doing something which is totally shitty. And
Hmm.
you have a strong correlation between water and land. So to me, there are all the safeties in place to keep things protected from speculators.
Okay. Then I will take the first joker I have today, and I will ask you just one question.
Let me put the.
Joker card.
All
Okay,
right.
come on.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we all know this picture, and this is. I want to make this story really emotional here. What happened is this picture is a symbolic of so many other children in the world, unfortunately, right? And we all know this little boy. The name is Hope, and this little boy was found by this brave woman from Denmark, and this little boy was totally naked, is 2 years old, nothing to eat, and was close to die of thirst. So happily or luckily, this woman came and saved him, right? But let's say, as I said, it is some symbolic picture. And I would like to ask you one question. How does it help that we trade water rights and water at itself to this little boy, or other way around? How would you, dear Antoine, how would you end the following sentences to this two person? We trade water on stock market because of.
Okay, we trade market on water and stock markets because we want to make everyone aware of the value of water, and we want the value of water to reflect its worth. So that is really to answer that question. But let me first say that your picture has nothing to do with what we're discussing here, because actually you're
It
showing a
has
picture
so
of a
much
child in
to do,
Africa.
so
To
much.
my knowledge, it would be quite difficult to package the Californian water in a boat and bring it to Africa. That is the tragedy of water. That is really the tragedy of water. It is that interbasin transfers of water is incredibly complicated. So when you're
Okay.
trading something locally, it is a local topic. It has nothing to do with that child. But let me return you a question. What is the first use of water worldwide?
I don't want to take it because I don't want to let you go with that, because you are saying we do this because of your answer was that everybody is aware about water. But how does it help? How does it help the persons, or let's say the children, the people who does not have any water at all? How does it help to them that we trade water and water rights? That
I'll,
we
I'll come
that
to
we
that, but
are that we are aware about water. That's why we put it on Wall Street. That's why we should trade about this. That's why we should invest about this, and we should make as much as possible money out of this.
it's not.
No, this
You,
is
you,
not the
you're
right. I mean, there are a lot of
no.
other organizations who are really saying, okay, let's do it like this. I mean, think about Viva Con Aqua, who is doing a lot about to make water into the right place.
You're making a
Think of,
travesty of what I was saying. Björn, let's
no,
come back to my
you
question. The
you are
question is, who is
you are
using
you
water?
are
The
saying you are
first
saying
use of
no,
water
you are
is
saying the idea was, I asked you clearly the question. What is the reason that we trade water on the stock market? What would you say
okay.
to them?
So you don't want to argue. You don't want to. You have.
That we do this to make everybody aware that we have a water issue. I can't let you
No,
go
it's not
with
what I
that.
said. It's absolutely not what I said. Okay, let me explain you what. You don't want to answer my question. I'm going to answer my question. What is the first use of water? The first use of water is agriculture. 70% of the water in the world is used for agriculture, which means that if you want to have water for all, you want to make sure that those 70% are used in the most efficient way. And actually, they're not. If you look at what's done today in countries which are water scarce, which have a high water scarcity, they have been working on that. Look at drip irrigation. Drip irrigation has been invented in Israel. Why? Because they didn't have water. They had to be creative. So, if you were to use drip irrigation everywhere around the world and not just flood irrigation, like it's still the case in many places, those 70% of water which are used by agriculture can be reduced.
Hmm.
And if you consider that between now and 2050, the world will have to produce more food than in the entire humanity before. So between 2020 and 2050, we will be producing more food than between thousands of years before Christ until 2020. So that is what we have on the table. We have to feed humanity. And to feed humanity, we need a lot of water. And actually, what water futures are doing when we're trading water futures is that it's telling everyone, look, if you were to go for drip irrigation instead of flood irrigation, you might be saving, let's say 20%, let's say 30%, maybe 40% of your water. And if you're saving that, well, good news, you can have a financial advantage out of it, which is you can resell it on the market. So that gives a very strong incentives for farmers and people in the agriculture sector, so in the food and beverage area, to reduce their water footprint and
Hmm.
to balance the investment with the fact that they can trade their water. So that is the benefit of trading water.
Okay, I mean, very clear, Antoine. I mean, you used a lot of words and the sentences, but you didn't really answer the question. I think we are really clear on this side here, and maybe we can close this. The point is, I mean, if we really trade water or water rights at the Wall Street or at a stock exchange, shouldn't we do the same as we do, for instance, what we do with oil or with soy or with whey? So there's a global price, for instance, for oil. We have today around 80 barrels, no, $80 a barrel, which is around half a dollar a liter. So if we do this, shouldn't we have, let's say, a global price for all of us, if we want to have water, which we have to pay, as we have right now for oil, or for whey, or for soy?
Björn, you know this industry at least as
Do I?
good as I do. So I can't just let you tell this. It's so wrong. I mean, again, I
No,
come
it's
back
a
to what I was
question.
saying.
I'm not saying
You
it's right or
cannot.
wrong. I'm just raising the question.
No, you cannot. The answer is clear. It's no. You cannot have a universal price for water just because water is a physical good which is located in some places of the world. You have places of the world which are water rich and places of the world
Mhm.
which are water poor. And like it or hate it is the way it is. And it is today, with today's technology, far too expensive to take water from one place and to bring it to the other place. It has been tested, it has been calculated several times in several places, and it turns out that that is always the most expensive way to source your water. So
True.
you cannot have a universal price for water. Whereas you can have somehow a grid which is widely connected when it comes to electricity. So you can have a universal price for electricity and oil because of some mechanisms that are put in place. You can decide between the countries which are producing that oil that you are regulating the market. So it is really some different concepts. So I'm not sure where you want to head with that, but I think there cannot be some universal price from water. And if you want to prove that, I can show you some data.
Yeah, please do. Let's talk about the water tariffs.
Well, so I'll show you how already today um, you're wrong about the water price because it cannot be one single price for water. Let's look at the water price in 2021. The average global water tariff, everything included, is $2.33 per cubic meter. So we might say, hey, you just said there's no universal price. Absolutely, I understand my point. There is no universal price. But inside those 2.33, if you look at the ratio, 5% of it is stormwater management, then 40% of it, about 40% is wastewater, and the rest is water. So you see, Those are the components of the price, and they may differ by country, but that is the average. And now that is the point. We are talking here of average because if you split it down, water in the US is going to be $4.65 per cubic meter, and that is still an average because even in the US, if you're in San Francisco or if you're in Chicago, it's two totally different stories. So really take it with a strong pinch of salt. There is a strong difference from place to place. As you see in Europe, $4.4 per cubic meter. And there again, if you're in Denmark, it's a totally different picture than if you're in even in my place in France. So, and if you look all around the world, we see very, very different tariffs. The bottom being South Asia, where you have this $0.37 per cubic meter. Now, there is one place in the world, only one, but let's start with the most expensive. I somehow hinted to it. Cayman Islands, you get it. It's an island, not so much water. Denmark, because Denmark is the best pupil there is in water management worldwide. So they put the real price on water, and the real price happens to be quite high. The Virgin Islands, Iceland, and Germany. So you might think if you're living in one of those countries, water is so expensive, you want to move. Where shall you move? Well, maybe you shall move to Ireland because in Ireland the water is free. But I'll give you a spoiler: free water doesn't exist. So when it's apparently free, it just means you're not paying directly for it, but you're paying taxes which are covering that water. And actually, Ireland is the only country in the world where water is free. There used to be Turkmenistan as well, but by 2018, Turkmenistan said, sounds a bit stupid not to make people pay for water. I don't want to start a conflict with our Irish people looking at that. But if there are some Irish people watching us, please come in the chat and tell me and explain me why you don't want to pay for water. Because the last time Ireland wanted to put some water tariffs, there were riots and strikes. So I guess that must be quite a sensitive topic. Now the bottom five. So we've seen Ireland is free. Cuba is $0.01 per cubic meter. So you see the inspiration of Björn. So Cuba, Myanmar, which is a big democracy as well, Pakistan, Brunei. So you see, that is apparently what you want to see in this world. Why
No, I'm
not?
not saying this
I'm
I
not
want to
judging.
see in the world. No, I'm not saying that I want to see this in the world. I'm just, just raising the questions. Shouldn't we at least think about that? I mean, just to have the solution we had already over the last 15 years doesn't work anymore, right? Look at the other pictures, look at the regions we have. And if we want to talk about average income, well, we can talk about this in a later stage as well. I'll give you some good examples on this.
I'll just finish that one just to say
Yes,
that there
please,
was
please.
a freeze in many countries around COVID because we've seen that, of course, with COVID, you have to wash your hands. So it's better if you have access to water. So many countries have taken the plunge to say, hey, during COVID, we're at least freezing everything. Um, And then if you look at the water tariffs and you compare it to the inflation, you see that over the past decades, well, actually, the prices of water went down because, I mean, down, stable, 3.2 against 3.3. So here, really, you see there's something happening because if over the past decade, where we're all saying that water scarcity is on the rise, we still have the same tariffs that the inflation, then something might be wrong. And I'll just tell you why all of that matters to me. It's when you look at how much you have to invest to meet SDG 6. And remember your child, Björn. Let's take back your child because I'll turn the argument against you. Um, that child, if you wanted him to have water, so it's water for all, it's closing the gap. It's that everybody gets access to safe drinking water, to manage sanitation. And if you want that to happen, well, there's something which you have to bridge, which is you have to close the gap. And closing the gap involves actually, like it or not, that we need to have the money to do it. And having the money to do it, well, whether all the governments become very clever and decide that they go for it and they fund it, and I don't believe that's going to happen, or we need to find that money elsewhere, and paying the right price for water is a way to close that gap. And actually, there's one book, I think I've already mentioned it on that show, and if I haven't, I really recommend you have a read. David Lloyd Owen wrote a book which is called Global Water Funding, and in his book, he's building a scenario which is what he calls the affordable tariff. And under his scenario of affordable tariffs for water, even if you're in the poorest portion of the poorest country in the world, you're not spending more than 4% of your income on water. So at the max of the max of the max in the poorest country in the world, you're spending 4% of your income on water. And if we do that, if we put that in place, we are covering 91% of
Mhm.
SDG 6. We are covering 140% of the operating cost of water for all. And we are covering
Mhm.
most
Mhm.
of the investment of water for all. So that is what's on the line when we're talking about water prices. Now tell me how I
Okay.
can be wrong with that.
Oh, I tell you, and you know, before I come into your 4%, before I will crash your 4% and the average, I will leave the floor to some other people. For instance, Sheldon Young, who's saying, "Hey, hold on, the dollar numbers need to be scaled versus the value of dollar in that country to make it relative." Trudy Schiffer saying, "Hey, Sheldon, absolutely right. And what about the GDP, cost of living, and so on?" I think there's something still missing in your tables, right? I'm not alone here. So what do you say to them?
I'll I'll be very clear. Let's look at what we have today. I mean, water, and to that extent, Björn, you're fully right. Water is not your everyday commodity. Because if you don't have water, well, guess what? You die. And I'm sorry, but it's simply the truth. So it means that every human on earth today is trying to get his share of water. And in
Mhm.
those countries, to get that share of water involves finding a water dealer,
Mhm.
exactly like you have your drug dealers in our nice countries. Well, in those countries, it's water dealers which you have to find, and those water
Mhm.
dealers have their own dealers and their bigger dealers, and there's a full food chain, and those bring you some water. And when I say some water, the World Health Organization say that a human needs 50 liters a day. Okay, so that is really the benchmark. To get 50 liters of water a day, in countries like Mozambique, like Madagascar, it's 50 or 55% of your income. So today, those people are spending more than half of their income to
Mhm.
get water. And they don't even have a safe source of water. There might be a day where the water dealer is not coming. And what do? And they are spending on average 2 hours per day just to look for water, 2 hours where they're not doing anything else. And most of the time, that burden is on women. So that means there's a full portion of the population whose only purpose is to look for water. And what I'm saying is that if you give those people water at the tap for 4% of their income, they will
Mhm.
have better water, safer, and they don't have to spend one single minute aside from the moment they open the tap. That's what we're talking about. And yes, dollars might not be the same than euros, might not be, and yes, there is an adaptation to local countries, but see, that's the gap from 50% to 4%. You're dividing by 10 the cost of water, and
Mhm.
all of that for a better quality, for a better availability, and for a service which is at least happening at many hours in the day, when today in many places you get water maybe 2 hours per day, 3 hours per day, 4 hours per day at the very maximum. So we have to see what's happening today before we.
Yeah. Sure. I think we got your point. I think what Trudy and Sheldon said. I think have another look on your numbers, right? And to compare apple with apples and not apple with burns. So,
My numbers
but
come
no.
from the
But
World
back
Bank and
to
from
your
the
4%.
OECD. So
Now the floor is mine. You was talking too long. The 4%, I mean average. If you're saying average income, and what you are saying, your solution is that in the countries, for instance, in Africa, everybody should take 4% of his average of his income to, let's say, to get the water supply. That's what you're saying, right? So 4% of the average income of
for the bottom
of
20%.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for instance, what do you think? What do you think? What is the difference if you compare Lagos, the big city in Nigeria, average, to the north of Nigeria? Would you say they have same? I mean, the entire Nigeria is $304 a month. This is what the average is. So I don't think that you can, if you take the 304, so that means you take the 4%, that means you go to the north. In the north, they have at least the half of that, the poor people. And I
So
give you
they're in the
another
bottom
example.
20%.
Even in Germany, there you have an average. But if you go to the north of Germany, even their average income is 20% lower than the average. So what you are saying sits still here, that everybody should pay at least 4%, but you don't consider what about them who are not able to pay the 4% at least.
Björn, it's less. They're already paying much more. It's a reduction of the cost to them. Really,
No, they are dying. They don't pay anything for that because they die because they can't afford for water. That's what happened. So that's the reality. And the people who are able to afford that, they don't care whether they pay $50 or whatever, or 50% in your case.
that's simply not
Right.
true.
The
That's simply not
point
true.
the point is, if you take your 4% of average, yeah, looks fine, looks like a very simple math,
4% of the
but
bottom
it's
20%.
yeah,
It's
but
already taking account of the
even this is not correct, because
incomes.
the average in the entire country, and especially the gap between bottom and top in countries like Nigeria, will be way more higher. We have just in Germany, as I said, where we have from the north to the south an average gap of 20% to the average.
Björn,
So think about countries where they are not able
it's a
to
nonsense.
pay
Sorry,
as,
what you're
at
saying
least
is a
nothing.
nonsense. You take
No, it's
Lagos. I
not.
think Lagos is a good example. It's not even the most problematic part is not even the north part of the country or the south part of the country. It's Lagos itself. If you look at Lagos, there's the city as it used to be, and then there's the urban dwellers, all the people that left the rural part of the country and that went to the big cities. And that's not only happening in Nigeria, that's happening everywhere around the world, simply because you go to where there's a bit more wealth and where you try to make a living. And today, they, long before they die of thirst, they die of waterborne diseases. And waterborne diseases, what is it? It's you're not managing your water, you're not taking care of your water. And to do that, you need to cover the cost. And the most efficient way to cover the cost is to mutualize it to reach scale effect. And mutualizing and reaching scale effect means that on the overall thing, the full society is paying less. So
Mm.
it's cheaper to everyone to have to pay less. And then I'm not saying that everyone should be paying over the top. I tell you, when I was personally in New Delhi working with the United Nations to do a program called Water for All, we were helping them to get connected to water, and those people told us we are paying for it, even if it's symbolic, even if it's a little bit something, but we are paying for it because water has a value, and water is probably one of, if not the most valuable thing there is on earth. And everybody is taking their share. And then, of course, if you have more money, pay more. I'd be happy to pay more. Honestly, I can afford to pay more. Charge me more. But I want to be sure that at the end of the day, we keep that in mind, that when we are directly covering the cost, we are making sure that it's efficient, that money doesn't get lost
Mm.
to corruption, doesn't get lost to inefficiencies, doesn't get lost to indirect subsidies of people which are putting their friends in place, doesn't get inefficient. And to be efficient, we have to pay for water. And if we pay
Mm.
for water, we get the value of water. And I'm connecting that to the beginning of our discussion when you were saying, why would you trade water? Well, at least now, if someone wants to know what's the value of water in California, they just have to open the NASDAQ and they know that's the value of water in California. So now, if I'm a company which is building a technology and that technology can deliver more water in the system, take a non conventional technology, I don't know, like atmospheric water generation, where you can be delivering, I don't know, a cubic meter at $2 per cubic meter. If the water tariffs goes above $2, then you're economic and you can go out in the market and you have a share and you're bringing more water to the pot and you're helping everyone to go out. And if
Mm.
instead of that, you see that the market is just stupidly low, like today in places like Cuba, where it's 1 cent per cubic meter, well, what can you afford for 1 cent? Nothing. Nothing. And if you have nothing, then nobody gets clean water, nobody gets sanitation, and we're in trouble.
All right. Okay. Let's calm down a little bit, maybe. I mean, what all I can say to you, Antoine, is that you should read a little bit the comments into the chat. They are firing a little bit against your concept and what you're saying. I would like to take whatever you said about the tariffs. The tariffs. I would like to bring a personal story, because what I haven't understand so far is why we do have the paradox here, with the paradox of the water tariffs. I mean, some years ago, I was in the gray water business, right? I was selling gray water systems to private households or to hotels and things like this so many years ago. And as well, I was there in the region of Near East up to Middle East, up to not really Far East, but up to India. So, and one of the countries, and which was also, I think you mentioned this already, which has, let's say, not really water scarcity, but let's say they don't have too much water, is Israel. And I was working for a long time with Israel, with an Israeli company, to bring the water, the gray water system into the place. We failed. We failed totally after a couple of years. We failed with the system due to one fact that the water tariffs were way too low. They were way too low. That means there are countries in the world, for instance, like Pakistan, which was on your list, or Israel, or many, many others, Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and so on and so on, who are, who are, you know, their tariff is so low because it's subsidized by the government, but this means also that the people are not forced to save water. So that means they use way more water as they could. Take another example from Europe, right? Here in Germany, as you already said, we have one of the highest tariffs about water, but we use less than 120 liter per person a day. So we are forced, due to the high tariffs, to save water. And this paradox, well, I didn't got it so far until today, why this really happened. Why countries where they are scarcity, where they have a scarcity, why are they paying so low tariffs, and that the people, the people who are living in the country, that they are not saving water at all? Do you have an answer for that?
I'd say there is a wrong perception around water. There is really a wrong perception. And all of that, the full discussion we're having here started on one of your posts some weeks ago, where you were saying exactly what you're saying now, and I was saying somewhat what I was saying here. And many people commented to say that I was totally wrong. And I can hear it, really, I can hear it. But to many people here, um, water shall be free because water is just a natural a natural good, and a natural good shall be free. To which I oppose that if water is free, then why is food not free? But even apart from that, we have to be clear. When I say price of water, cost of water, it's not water itself. It's conveying that water, it's treating that water, it's managing that water, it's building the infrastructure around that water. So I think that is here, there's a disconnect. People think, I mean, people see, for instance, this Rotten documentary on Netflix, which shows you how bottled water players are just spoiling people and taking their water to put it in bottles and sell it very expensive. And people mix that with the water industry. And it's two different topics. I'm not taking here of bottling because if we open the Pandora box, then we are good for 2 more hours. So, but what I want to say is that we are not the bottling industry. We are not stealing the water from anyone, and we are not putting a stupid price on it to make profit. Most of the water places in the world are whether utilities, which are by design not really allowed to make profit, or private companies which have a delegation of public service and which have to give some to show their results. So they cannot either have 60% margin on water. So we are not stealing money from people. We are just making them pay for everything which is associated with producing that water safely. And I fully with you when I see places in the Middle East in the list of the cheapest places for water in the world, when you know that a good portion, 60 or 70% of the desalination plants in the world are in Middle East, and desalination is probably one of the most expensive ways today to get water. It's a nonsense. To me, I don't understand. You asked why? I don't know.
We are, let's say, even I believe that everything should have a price. Also, water should have a price, right? We are living in a world where everything does have a price, and we're also living in a world where everything is connected, which has a high price. We definitely think directly, hey, must we have a good quality? And we should use it somehow. I'm not saying that we should have an extremely high price for water, but let's say we should use this, that we have the stereotype, whatever is expensive, whatever I have to pay for is must be have a good quality, whether it's right or not, right? Because we are just yeah stupid humans, right? I mean we are influenced by so many marketing people over the last years that we really think, hey, if I pay a higher price, I have a higher quality. So to make it for free,
You
to
want a
make
cool
it for
example of that?
you want if you want to make it for free would be not the right approach. But still, to make it too cheap is also not the right way. That's what we see with the terrorists. That's why, for instance, with my grey water system, I couldn't come forward due to the fact that the people didn't see any benefit of that, due to the fact that the water was somehow subsidized by, by the authorities. That makes no sense.
I'll give an example of what you just said to show that we might agree on some points, and then I propose you to take some to collect the chat a bit about what you just said about the reaction of the people to price. When Singapore took its independence from Malaysia in the 60s, one of the big things is that they had a lot of assets in Singapore, but there's one thing they didn't have is water. So they could still borrow water and buy water from Malaysia, but the government of Malaysia made very clear that the day that you take any political decision which goes against our interest, we are shutting down the tap and you don't have water anymore. So from that very beginning on, Singapore said, okay, my water is going to be the crucial topic for the country. We have to make sure that we can at some point be sufficiently independent from Malaysia so that the risk of shutting down the tap doesn't exist anymore. So they developed this concept of new water. New water was first reused into industries, reused into grey water and many types of reuse, but there is also this indirect potable reuse. And when they started with that, they put a price which is kind of a subsidized price for water. And the people in Singapore would simply refuse to drink the water because they said, come on, that's too cheap. It cannot be
Mm.
good. And they took the same water, they didn't add anything, no additional treatment, and they somehow doubled the price. And when they doubled the price, it was reassuringly expensive. And all of a sudden, everybody was very happy about the new water. And today, Singapore is on the track by 2040, 2060 to be fully independent from Malaysia when it comes to water between desalination and reuse. So you see that there is a direct correlation between both of them, which I've coined through the Veblen good or the Veblen effect. But I think you have a different psychological bias here to explain.
Okay, okay, good that you have mentioned this. I mean, you're absolutely wrong with the Weber effect, because for all who have no clue what Antoine is talking about, in each and every economy, if you increase the price of a good, the demand will go down. The Weber effect is saying that for certain products, if you increase the price, also you increase the demand. This is more or less for luxury products. So this has nothing to do with our water economy. For instance, the water price, no, the water demand in Germany for each person and household was 150 liter. Due to the fact that the tariffs went up, the demand went down. So
Okay.
this is absolutely the opposite of
Do
the
you want to
Weber
have that
effect.
fight off
The
topic? Because we
no,
can have that
but
fight.
I
Why?
mean, I agree with you, but the Weber effect, sorry, from the economic point of view, to see it
You're
is wrong.
wrong. Björn, come on.
No, the Weber effect is saying if you increase the price for some products, you also increase the demand. This is for luxury products. For instance, if you
Then,
increase the price for a Ferrari, nobody will, the let's say the demand for the
okay, we're
Ferrari will
going
not
really
go
off
down.
topic,
But
but
for
the
water,
Veblen
you can
effect,
see
Veblen effect
you can
is the conspicuous
directly see
consumption.
this.
Conspicuous consumption was is the term which was coined by Torsten Veblen, and it explains why people are buying stupidly expensive bottled water. But really, we're going off topic with that. If you want to have that fight, if you want to call it differently, call it differently. The reassuringly expensive is a fact, and it's a psychological bias, and you agree with that. So you're discussing on terminology when you agree with me. See, I'm so right that you have to take tricks to be wrong. Let's keep on topic, and let's take some people from the chat. Actually,
Yes,
you were
please.
mentioning that people were making 400% return on water, and Alex has an open question to you to say, where do you get that data somehow? Um,
You can find it on the stock market. If you go to Nasdaq, I think I have the link somewhere. There you can see the increase and the curve and things like
so
this.
you're saying that Alex Lukopoulos, which was on my podcast 2 weeks ago, if you want to listen to him, which is an advisor for science water and for science capital management, knows a bit less the US stock market than you do.
Oh, definitely
Shall I
not.
believe you?
Um, No, no, no. I mean, what is it about? Is it about the numbers that we have four times higher price for the future than we had in the beginning? I think this is crystal clear. Go to the stock market and have a look.
Now to help you a bit out here, and that's not the US market, but I come back to my Australian market examples. On the Australian market, there are examples of traders which were having some trading bots and things like that who were competing against the farmers. So on one end, you had the farmers who were trying to do their best on three different markets plus off market, so they had little information and little tools to be faster than the traders. And on the other hand, you had professional traders. So that wasn't that fair. So I'm not saying that's what's happening in the US, because to me, the
Oh,
US market
okay.
so far is balanced. But
No, but I get now the point from Alexander. I mean, this is not about the 400% what he is talking about. He's talking, is there anyone who really got a return? Yeah, the return was by the investors who invested, or let's say who purchased the land by the farmers, right, and sold it to someone else for a higher price. Yes, this is the effect. It has nothing to do directly with the effect from the future on the Wall Street, right, with 400%. This is more about that they are purchasing, or let's say they are purchasing the land from the farmers and they resell it to another investor, right? Maybe to make it more smaller pieces and to sell it for more. Same with some, if you have a house with a couple of apartments, and that's what happened right now in California. So yeah, is there any return? Yeah, the investors who were already dived deep in and purchased it already, these kind of land, and resold it to some other investor. Yeah, there's a return of that for them, definitely.
so Jeremy is asking, Ireland used to have, or he's telling us that Ireland used to have water included in housing rates rather than separated out as a separate bill, which is right. But actually, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's that it's not free. They say it's free because on the paper it's free, but in fact it's not. Someone has to pay for it. And I think water management costs the country 1.2 billion euros per year, and someone has to pay for it. And the state doesn't have deep pockets, despite having all the GAFA, which have their headquarters, European headquarters in Ireland. So it means taxpayers have to pay one way or the other, be it through housing rates or a different mechanism. So to to me, the only reason why that is wrong is that it's like putting water somewhere in the background when it should be in plain sight. But you, I'd bet that you're right on on that one. There were questions on. Uh, Tony had another question earlier on that one. He was asking how the water futures are working. Can you shortly explain, Björn? Like, in if I give you 45 seconds, can you explain what the water futures are? That's not what I'm showing right now, but he had another question earlier in the chat, and then we can talk about Melbourne.
I mean, a simple answer is that they get. I mean, they use a lot of water. Use a lot of water, and they have a fixed price for the water even in future. So that means they say they fix a price for a certain period of time for the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever. And so they are paying the same price so they can buy the future right now to have to avoid that if there is coming an increase of the price for the water, that they have to pay more so that they are stable for the next months. This is the future for that.
I'm not fully wrong to say that that is like an insurance mechanism.
Somehow. But I mean, this is the idea of that. But let's say the effect, or let's say the implication, is that other investors are going there and buying the land from the farmers, and this is a negative thing. So then it becomes really a tradable object that they are going directly to the land of the farmers, and they are resell to make more money just because of the water which is underneath the land. This is what it is about. In principle, the idea, let's say, that you have a kind of insurance. Well, I'm somehow with Antoine. Yeah, could be a good idea for the people, but you have to think further. And what happened then is the negative impact.
That is a very valid point as well from Gonzalo who's saying that we are not talking about non-revenue water. It's very true. I mean, we had a broad topic today and a lot to say. So we didn't mention non-revenue water, but for sure, non-revenue water is about 126 trillion liters per year. If we were to cut that down, let's assume it's possible. But if we say we cut it down to the reasonable amount, we're probably saving about $50 billion a year. That is for sure a source of it's clearly an improvement we can do on the networks, and something probably we shall look at when we're laying new networks, because that's what we're talking about when we're talking about Lagos and everything. It's laying down new networks and making sure that we don't lose too much water there. Not that I want to make too much of a plug, but I had a really cool discussion with Olivier Narbe on the podcast last week, if you want to listen to it, about non-revenue water, and he was saying much more clever things than I would ever say here in answering that question. We had Julie saying that the water distribution is not ideal, but the supply. So yeah, exactly. So the point here is, even if we were all paying for it, would we have water for all? If I try to translate and make sense of that question, very valid point actually, because as much as you pay, still you won't maybe have water for all. But my point is, if you look at places where you really have no source of water at all, you can always still find something. And that can be unconventional sources. And I think we are going to do an episode in a close future, hopefully, because I'd like to discuss that with Björn about the crazy ideas you can have to catch water, even if there is no water. But yes, for sure, water scarcity has many faces, but still, people are using only 10% of the water. So I doubt that if we were really aiming to have water for all, we wouldn't be able to find water for everybody everywhere. That might have some sacrifices, and maybe we are really to go down to the 50 liters. But tell me, Björn, if you have a different opinion on that one.
No, I'm very clear with you. I'm just reading the other comments here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff ongoing. So for Trudy is mentioning a lot of points here. Yeah, maybe you should explain another time the 4% idea with the average of the average, whether this is somehow right. But
The
I
4%
mean,
idea, I'm not
a
going to.
lot of stuff is really about politics and what is really going wrong inside the countries, that we are not able to submit or provide. This is a better word. Provide water to people who are not having access to. I mean, this is in principle, it's all about that. How can we solve the issue that people and children die due to the fact that we are not distributing water to all of the people all over the world? This is a question, and I mean, we are starting gambling about that. This is how we came in the beginning, and the major question is how can we solve that? And yeah, just to put it on the stock market and say, hey, yeah, then it is aware of everybody. I mean, this is a little bit too cheap. It's a little bit too. But anyway, I don't want to open the discussion again here. Maybe the 4% would be fair enough, Antoine, to give it another
I'm
minute.
not going to re-explain the 4%, just because I'm having a look at the watch. But have a look at David Lloyd Owen's book, and have a look at the infographic I made around the book when he was my guest on the podcast. If you want to have the link, just send me a direct message, and I'd be happy to give you more one-to-one details. Just shortly on that one, if you look at all the studies, they're always mentioning you have three T's. You have tariffs, taxes, and transfers. So if you don't go for tariffs, which is what we were discussing quite a lot today, you can go for taxes, which is the Irish way of doing it, or you can go for transfers. Transfers
Yeah.
would be, for instance, the World Bank subsidizing something, or a charity doing something. The problem with transfers is that Transparency International has showed that 7.5% of these transfers actually go in the pocket of someone on the way to where water shall be used. So that's why I'm insisting that much on tariff, because tariff is the only direct route. And when you go for the direct route, usually you limit the risk. But yeah, uh, somehow,
Yeah.
yeah, price versus tariff. That's what we just said. Um,
Yeah. It should
so
be should be should be come a little bit to the last section we have already.
yeah, actually, if you have a look at what David Lodowen was explaining, he's making an affordable tariff and the political tariff, which are two different things. And he's mentioning how uh, there's the money you would need to cover for the needs, and there's the money that governments would allow you to charge for. And most of the time, it's quite different topics. I think it's going to be quite hard to put everything into a box. So if you think that there's still a lot that we haven't covered, uh, come tell us in direct message, and maybe we have to make a part two to that show. For now, I'll follow the nudge of you, Björn, and let's switch to our closing session on the news.
What's in the news this month?
Do you want to
Yeah.
be first? Do I go first?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's a good break to start to talk about other topics we also have. It's an important topic that we have to talk about human rights and water and so on, the gambling, but also we are in an industry and we also have an eye on what is going on. And what happened recently is, if you remember the last show we had, we talked a little bit about companies and what happened in the market, who's acquiring next. And one example we had was Grundfos. Grundfos was purchasing a couple of companies, especially Eurowater, but the journey goes on. Grundfos acquired, or let's say entered into an agreement with a leading water technology company called Mako from the US. And this company is one of the world leader in the industrial water treatment markets for manufacturing water treatment plants. So what that means is, I stated last time that Grundfos and other pump suppliers are becoming to the point that they're going into the OEM EPC world, and they are no longer just a supplier of an equipment. And the keyword I used last time was predictive maintenance. So that means they want to take control about the entire wastewater or water treatment plant, that they have access to the data. And this is actually another proof that this journey goes on, that this change of this company, of this pump company, goes forward. And so my final words would be, hey, very clever, and all OEMs and APCs, you should hurry up to make sure that there will not become a gap between you and other companies.
It's somehow what we discussed last time about building a
Yeah,
vertical, and
yeah.
yeah,
But
it's
very,
always
very
this.
interesting.
Yeah,
It's a proof that that really happened. So the market is ongoing, and there's really a change that we see companies going from OEM to EPCs, or from product supply just to OEM and so on, that they open their product portfolio.
you're right. It's a fascinating time to be in that industry for many reasons, good and bad. But that's maybe one of the neither good nor bad, simply interesting. You can be on the
Yeah.
as a railbird, eat some popcorn, and look companies going into strategic directions. Just answer to Trudy in the chat. She's fully right by pointing out that that there's bottling and bottling, if I might say so. Because if you're in Flint and you don't have drinking water, then you're not going to be very happy. That I said something quite nasty about bottled water, but to me, there's bottled water and bottled water. There's comfort bottled water, and there's bottled water because it's a temporary solution, or it's the best way to have water at a certain point in time. But I think that this full debate around bottled water deserves to have 1 hour to dedicate to it. So I'll not go too much in the details right now. Let me just give you my thing in the news in 1 minute. Actually, it's a book to Björn's uh,
Surprise, surprise, another book.
surprise. Yeah. Uh, that book is it's called Sold on the River, and it actually tells you how the Australian market went, how that Murray River, this story I told you, how they went from having water for all and somehow an irrigation scheme to an open market, which was how they tell it in the book, a Thatcherian or a Reagan dream, really, really absolutely fully liberal, and that's they decorrelated water from land, from use, from everything, and that they're really into that speculation with the consequences it had on the landscape and on the way to farm there. So that book went out, I think, 10 days ago. I finished it yesterday evening. Uh, if you're really interested in the story, that's something that that can be of interest to you. And if Scott Hamilton or Stuart Kells are on the live right now, just give me a call. I have a podcast microphone, which is always open to people who wrote fascinating books. So yeah, I like to dive a bit deeper, but I can recommend you if you're into those topic of trading to have a look at the book. That somehow closes for today. On
I have two more points here.
Yep,
I have two more points
please.
for the show today. I mean, we talked about the Hope boy and the young lady who saved a little bit the boy. I just shared a little bit the aid organization. I put the link into the comments, which was Anja Löwen who opened the aid organization to help children like the boy. And I think I have to make a disclaimer here a little bit on the show. It is a show, right? So that means Antoine and I, yeah, we are trying to take different opinions on a topic, even if it is sometimes not our own topic. So really that we want to, jump into a topic from different angles, and we really want to make it, yeah, sometimes hard, that we take really the arguments of the other side. So don't blame us if you don't like the, let's say, the arguments we brought on the table. Sometimes it is not really about us. Sometimes it is just that we put the right angle into the topic.
And I'll take 50 seconds more just to say that I don't know if it's for all the countries, but in France, McDonald's has started some weeks ago to sell water by McDonald's, which is you take tap water and you pass it through some magic stuff, which makes it better according to them. So really, when I see the very interesting stuff which is still coming in the chat, I think we shall really take that topic for a next show. Björn, despite the fact that you were highly wrong all the way along the show, it was a pleasure discussing with you.
I think it was really clear. I mean, look the chat again. Maybe then you will find some counter arguments against yours. Not
I
all
told you
mine.
from the beginning, I wasn't expecting to win the people's vote today, but
It is not. It's not about winning. Yeah, sometimes it is, but in the end, it's all about the topic, and we want to bring some more light into the shadow.
So let's close. We're 2 minutes late, and my dear friend Björn is German, so I have to be a bit. If you like
Great.
the show, if you hate the show, just let us know. Send us a message. It's important. We want to take your feedback to make it always better, every time a bit better. And as always, if you have suggestions, things we missed, or if I was really, really, really wrong, just come and tell me. I'd be happy to listen to you. Björn, it was a pleasure. See you next month.
Same for me. Thanks a lot. And Sheldon, yes, we are not monsters. Take care, everybody. Thanks for stopping by and watching our show. See you next month. Bye
See you
bye.
next month. That was it for another episode of Time for Wastewater. So, what would you like us to debate next? Which water topic shall we put under the spot? Did you like it or did you hate it? And last but not least, is there a matter where you feel your expertise might be a fantastic fit on this stage? Come tell us on LinkedIn. We welcome and praise any feedback. So don't be shy and see you next month.